guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check out today's video. And guys, today I've got a video that you probably have never heard this before on any YouTube channel, but I got thinking about some things that I can share with you all to really improve your ability to catch fish. And that's the goal here on the channel, is I want to help everybody catch more fish. And I want to talk about it's sort of an abstract idea a little bit about your imagination and your creativity that you have uniquely to you as a person is so critical as far as catching fish, that's how you can catch fish. Like, one of the things in bass fishing, guys, is you can't catch other people's fish. You hear this all the time about somebody will tell you a good area or something or a technique, and you try it and it doesn't work. You have to catch your own fish. And I want to talk today about how to learn how to trust your own creativity and your imagination and your ingenuity in fishing. This is a critical part of bass fishing. And a lot of people don't understand the power that you have as an angler. Even though you may not know much about fishing, you have an ability that is uniquely your own, that nobody else has. And I want to talk today about how to tap into that a little bit. We'll get into that. I'm also, guys, real quick, I want to show you one of the most productive baits for me over this past year. If you guys are wanting to catch some fish right now, you hear me talking about this a lot, guys. I can't reiterate how good it is. This is that Megabass Super Z2 crankbait. It runs probably about 6 feet deep on 10-pound line. It's a finesse type crankbait. It weighs a little over 1/4 of an ounce. And guys, I have caught so many bass on this thing ever since June. Probably been the #1 bait as far as catching the most fish for me. So I'll put it in my tackle warehouse link in the description of the video if you guys would like to try one. The two colors that I like the best are that one I just showed you there, and let me grab it here real quick. This I got it here. I caught it up here. But this frozen glass color. These two colors right here have been my two most productive ones. And you can get them both. Like I said, I'll put that tackle warehouse link in the description of the video. And guys, also one thing real quick. Anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, just go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and shoot me a private message for details. So thanks for hitting up with those plugs there. Really appreciate that. Okay, let's get into this, guys. Now, this is something, one of the things about my channel here, what I talk about a lot of stuff, especially on some of my other channels. The more inobvious, the more, not necessarily the mental part, but the part of bass fishing that it enables you to become a really good bass angler or a great bass angler. There's a difference between somebody that just stays sort of as an average angler and then people that take the next step. And a lot of these things that I talk about, like we're going to talk about today, it has a big part to play in it, because if you try to focus all of your, attention in bass fishing to like the best lures and the best colors and the obvious stuff people talk about, you're going to catch fish and it's going to help you, but it's not going to allow you to make those big leaps in your success rate. But what I'm going to talk about today will. Okay, here is what I'm going to try to frame this in something that makes sense, because this is one of those topics that, it's difficult to understand a feeling and put it into words. What I'm talking about here is you have two anglers in a boat. Let's say for example, you got Kevin Van Dam, arguably the best angler that's ever lived. Say Kevin Van Dam is in a boat, and then you got somebody else that may be just starting out bass fishing. They've caught 50 bass in their life, and they're really into it and they know how to cast, but they're learning. They don't know much about it. They don't know what works that good. They've absorbed information. They've watched YouTube videos, and of course the train shows up right on time here in the video, guys. So you got this beginning type bass angler with Kevin Van Dam, and let's say for example there's a nice row of lay down trees, and Kevin's got his Strike King spinnerbait, and he's going down and he's pitching the Strike King spinnerbait in and around the alleyways of the lay down trees, and that's how he's approaching it. And then say there's this guy in the back there that he maybe has never fished a lay down tree. He doesn't know what's going to work or what can or when can't work. He's just trying something that, he thinks good to him. And let's say, for example, he pulls out a jitterbug from his box and he's throwing this, Kevin goes past the lay down tree with the spinnerbait and doesn't catch one. And this guy that doesn't know any better, he pulls out a jitterbug and say the water is too cold for top water. Most people think the water, say it's in the 50s and people think it's too cold. He pulls out this jitterbug and catches a 5 or 6 pounder on a jitterbug around the same tree that Kevin didn't catch anything on the high percentage spinnerbait lure. This is what I'm talking about as far as trusting yourself and using your own imagination and instincts and intuition, is because on any given day, you're going to have one technique that may produce and the other not, and you don't know if that technique's going to produce or not. And the only way that you know is by trying something like that. And this is one of the things that you have as a beginning angler that nobody else has. Go back to my example about Kevin and the guy that doesn't know anything about fishing. Kevin may have caught so many bass, and he may have caught so many bass on that spinnerbait around a lay down tree that he knows it's going to work. And it may never have entered his mind in a million years to try a jitterbug on that tree because he's had so much success on the spinnerbait. But you, not knowing that the spinnerbait is supposed to be the best bait on that, tried something because you thought it might work through your own imagination and creativity and instincts, and it worked. This is the power that every single angler has out there above anybody else. Because let's say, again, I'll give you another example. Say you and me are in a boat. We're both fishing, and we're on a long riprap bank, and maybe I'm trying that little Z2 crankbait that I just showed you at the intro of the video that I've caught thousands of fish on, and I'm going to go down this bank with that Z2 crankbait, and I know that I'm going to catch them, and you're back there in the back with a beetle spin or a Met spinner or something like that. You got a little white beetle spin on that they use in farm ponds, and all of a sudden you start whacking them on this beetle spin, and which I don't even have any, and never would have considered to try it in a million years, and I can't catch anything on my Z2 crankbait that I've caught thousands on. You didn't have those preconceived notions and biases that kept you from throwing that beetle spin. You just said, hey man, this beetle spin might work here. I'm going to give it a try. Again, this is the PowerPoint that every single person out there has. And guys, you will always have this because it doesn't matter what stage you are at your career. Every single one of us are unique. We have unique thought processes about how we approach areas. And the power that I'm going to talk about that you have here is trust the fact that you are going to look at a body of water different than anyone else. And the way that you perceive it and your ideas and your thoughts and the things that you think may or may not work, they are more than likely going to work at times and nobody else will try them. So I'm not saying they're going to work all the time, but trust your instincts. This is the point of the whole video here. Trust your instincts, trust your intuitions, trust your own innate intelligence. And here's another really important thing to remember. Let's say you're out on the lake fishing and you're not catching them too good. Or maybe you're catching them a little bit, but you think you should be catching them better. If you have a thought about something that might work, let's say, for example, you've been fishing for 3 or 4 hours and you maybe caught one little fish. And you're thinking, it's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to try? And you get all these ideas coming into your mind. Don't let those ideas just pass by. Try it. It's like if you think that a certain color worm is going to work or a certain color crankbait is going to work that you may not have ever thought about using before, just tie it on and throw it for 10 or 15 minutes and find out. That is how you develop new confidence lures and new patterns and new techniques. Because again, it goes back to my tournament career. Working with some friends that I have over the tournaments, there's a bunch of buddies that we fished the tournaments together and we sort of networked and shared information. Everybody does on the tournament circuit. And they maybe tell me, it's like, yeah, I caught him on a pink spinnerbait. And it's like, a pink spinnerbait? I never would have tried that in a million years. And he may have said, yeah, some guy gave me one last year and, I just said, what the heck, I'm going to try it and started catching them on it. That's the way bass are. One of the things you're going to find out about bass that I have experienced in my own, time on the water is that when you talk about colors and lures, it's not necessarily the best color or the best lure that the fish want, but a lot of times They want something they've never seen before. To me, that is more important than the color profile of the lure. One of the things another thing to remember is if you go into a fishing store, like a tackle store or Bass Pro Shop or Walmart or whatever that has tackle, pay attention to the baits that are up on the wall there, on the SKUs there. Because a lot of times you're going to have the same baits. You're going to have a white and chartreuse spinnerbait or a white spinnerbait. You're going to have a crawdad crankbait. You're going to have a sexy shad crankbait. You got a lot of the same type of baits in most of the retail tackle stores, and that's what the fish see a lot of times. And they get conditioned to that very quickly. So if you can show them something they've never seen before, or a color they've never seen before, even though it may not make any sense to anybody, it can always work. And that's one of the things that got me on pink lures, guys, as I remember how many crappie I used to catch on, or any time I do. Every time I go fishing, I use a pink crappie jig. To me, pink crappie jig's the #1 color for crappie. But when I'm crappie fishing over the years, I can't tell you how many bass that I have caught on pink crappie jigs. Now, they may not be big bass. They might be pound and a half bass that I've caught just while I'm crappie fishing. But that got me thinking, it's like, obviously bass like pink, they're biting this pink crappie jig. And I started using pink lures and catching a bunch of fish. I almost won a Bassmaster Invitational at Truman Lake. I finished second in it behind Rick Clunn, was leading it going into the last day. And I caught all my fish in that tournament on a pink spinnerbait. I had a little bit of chartreuse in the skirt, but I had pink on it, and I had a pink trailer on it. And how I got that is I saw them. There was a bag of pink spinnerbait trailers at a tackle store I bought, and I just thought I'd try it, and I'd never seen it, and I caught them on it before. And then I've caught them on pink jerkbaits, since then. So that's just something that doesn't make sense. You don't see pink jerkbaits in the tackle stores, or you don't see pink spinnerbaits very often in the tackle stores, and that's why bass react to it. So anyway, guys, I know I've been all over the place in this video, but the thing that I want to stress to you more than anything else is it doesn't matter what level you are at a bass angler, because we all are at different levels. Or I use the analogy all the time about your bass fishing life is like building a brick house. It's like some of us are just putting down our first brick, we're getting started, and some of us are finishing the whole structure, and everybody else is in between. So regardless at the level that you're at, trust your own instincts and your ingenuity and your creativity, because there is validity to that. Don't ever discredit yourself, your own imagination, and just trust it, try it, give it 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you have an idea, and more than not, it works a lot of times. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you catch a few, and we'll talk later.